The Sounds of English is about phonological and phonemic awareness. Part 1 presents a sequence of tasks for developing phonological and phonemic awareness in the classroom, while Part 2 discusses the sounds, consonants, and vowels that make up English. Each PowerPoint is 8 to 9 minutes long. As you have already read and put reading first, the research building blocks for teaching children to read in kindergarten through grade 3, developing phonemic awareness is one of the 5 areas of reading instruction for early elementary students. This PowerPoint takes a closer look at this important foundation for reading. Phonology, as you recall, is the study of the way sounds work within a language. It includes looking closely at phonemes, syllable structure, stress, accent, intonation, and sounds as distinctive units within English. It's not an area of instruction that we pursue explicitly with children, of course, but it is the underpinning to what follows. Phonological awareness, as we think of it in relation to providing a basis for reading, also revolves around sounds, but on a broader, more pragmatic basis. For young children, phonological awareness might involve being able to determine that a sentence is actually a string of individual words. From there, they can develop the skill to identify the multisyllabic words are made up of syllables. Once they are comfortable with this task, they can move on to identifying onsets and rhymes. These are smaller chunks of sounds that comprise each syllable. Think of the rhyme component as being very similar to the rhyming part of a word. In the words cat, bat, fat, and flat, the part that rhymes is the at sound. This is also the rhyme, R-I-M-E, part of the word. The rhyme is the vowel followed by any consonant sounds that follow it within that syllable. Any consonants preceding or set before or on that rhyme is the onset. So, in dog, D is the onset, and OG, og, is the rhyme. In string, STR, stir, is the onset, and ing, ing, is the rhyme. In a 2-syllable word like include, there are 2 rhymes, in and ood. The second syllable has an onset of CL, but the first syllable doesn't have any onset because there is no consonant sound preceding the rhyme in. So you can have a word without an onset, such as in ask, ant, out, off, etc., but you can never have a word or syllable without a rhyme. In the English language, there are no words or syllables without a vowel sound, which is carried in the rhyme part. As you have probably noticed, we are slowly moving to a more and more discrete or smaller units of sound. We've broken that string of sounds in a sentence into identifying words, then syllables, then onsets and rhymes, and finally down to the individual sounds in a word, the phonemes. However, it is important to remember that in each of these tasks, it is always easier to do it as a blending activity first. For example, what is dog and house blended together? Doghouse. Once children are competent doing this, it is easier to reverse it and ask them to divide component words, compound words like raincoat and snowball. Then extend this to syllables such as what is bon, net, or ham, berg, ger, slid together. Once solid, move to taking multisyllabic words apart. How many syllables in tornado or elephant, and so on. Working with onsets and rhymes should start out the same way. What is k, at, blended together, before you move into segmenting words into onsets and rhymes. Finally, blending individual sounds like h, ah, p, to make hop becomes a task. Once established, they are ready to try segmenting words into individual phonemes with you. Developing phonemic awareness, then, is actually a sub-skill of phonological awareness. Think of phonological awareness as the overarching umbrella, and phonemic awareness falls under this umbrella. In turn, there are basically 4 tasks in dealing with sounds or phonemes. Blending is the easiest, as already mentioned. Then segmenting, substituting, and the most challenging is manipulation of sounds. We will become more familiar with these tasks as we move through the PowerPoint. As stated on the last slide, All phonological and phonemic activities are purely auditory activities. So where does the reading come in? Why bother with all these auditory tasks? Research has shown that phonological awareness is a highly consistent predictor of early reading achievement. Children who demonstrate this awareness are likely to be among the better readers. Once children realize that speech can be segmented and those segments can be represented by letters, this happens through phonics instruction later on, they are able then to grasp the systematic relationship between letters and sounds, or alphabetic principle. But first, they must be able to understand the use of sounds in our language to make words. Here are just a few of a myriad of activities that can help develop phonological awareness from the very broadest sense, counting words in a sentence, to dealing with sounds at a much more discrete skill level, which involves working with phonemes. Let's start at the most basic level, detecting words in a sentence. There are no white spaces between words in oral language as there is in written language, so students need to listen carefully to detect individual words in a sentence in order to do this task. If children need extra support, couple a short sentence with a picture such as, "The dogs are eating," or "The ducklings are swimming in the pond." Once children understand that sentences are comprised of words, it's time to look more closely at the sounds within those words. I'm sure you remember clapping out the syllables or beats to a word in elementary school. Another method of detecting how many syllables are in a word is to place your hand underneath your chin. Your chin drops slightly for each vowel sound you make. Try it with fishhook, monkey, volcano, and dinosaur. You should feel your chin drop slightly twice for the first two words, and 3 times for volcano and dinosaur. You can share the same trick with children. When learning to blend and then segment words into syllables, it's easiest to start with compound words first when developing the syllable awareness, because each syllable is a recognizable word unto itself, and from there begin to work with 2-syllable words such as napkin and picnic and table, etc., and then move to 3-syllable words, and so on. The same approach can be used when working with onsets and rhymes as with syllables. Once children have a firm grasp of these skills, they can move on to blending and then segmenting the phonemes in a word. If children struggle with blending sounds, place several pictures in a card holder. Say the words with the children, then ask them to find the picture that goes with the sounds s, n, or f, l, I. Once they can do this competently, have them blend sounds without any picture clues. The next step is to segment words into sounds. You can use a rubber band to illustrate stretching a word. Hold the rubber band between your 2 hands and say the word fly. Then slowly stretch the rubber band, and as you do, slowly say the word fly again so that each sound is heard. F, l, I. Be careful not to distort the individual sounds or phonemes as you do this. You can also use robot talk. Say the word sun in robot talk, so that each sound is isolated, much like a robot would talk in a choppy manner. S, n. Again, be careful not to distort sounds by adding to them. This would be especially important when children start to segment words. In the Project Read program, students are taught to clip sounds as they say them, using their fingers as scissors at their mouth to stop from adding behind a sound. David Elkonin created these boxes, and they are a tried and true method to give a visual representation to sounds or phonemes. As students stretch out a word to hear and isolate the individual sounds, they move a penny up into a box for each sound they hear. They would move up 2 pennies for the number 2. They would push up 3 pennies for cake and mouse, and 4 pennies for train. Students can also tap the sounds out on their arms. For example, with the word mouse, they would tap their shoulder for the m sound, and then elbow for the ow sound, and wrist for the s sound. Then they could slide their hand from their shoulder down to their wrist and reblend the sounds to make the total word mouse. Another segmenting strategy is to throw a word to the children and they catch it in their hand, holding it in their fist. Then they say the word, and slowly let one sound out as they lift each finger, starting with their thumb. So if the word is house, they would lift their thumb and say h, then their index finger and say ow, and then s as they lift up their middle finger to let the word out one sound out at a time. Now that we have looked at phonological and phonemic awareness activities in the classroom, let's take a few moments for a break and then begin Part 2.